Hello, everybody. How's it going today? So, I have the wonderful opportunity of getting to sit down with a famous theorist. Could you please introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, my name's Roland Barthes.
Nice to meet you, Roland. Is there anything you can tell me a little bit about yourself so we have a nice little background on you?
Yeah, no problem. Let's start at the beginning. You know, I was born in 1915 in Cherbourg, France. That's like a little sea town city, like on the coast right there, northwest of Paris. For the rest of you.
Okay, all right. That's very interesting. Um, like, any
Oh
influence?
yeah. So basically some of my influences would, like, for example, be like Karl Marx or Fernando de Souza. And just to name a few, some of the things, like some of my major contributions that you might know me for, like just in case you're at a bar or something, you're like, hey, what have you done? So some of the things I've done, I've influenced the advancement of many schools of theory. Like, so for example, like this would include like structuralism, post-structuralism, both of them, and then also social theory, design theory, anthropology, just to name a few.
Wow,
I'm widely considered to be one of the leading theorists of the 19th century.
very, very interesting.
Yep.
Do you think you could give us some short historical context of your main theory
Yeah.
and when it was developed and the reasons for its development?
Yeah. No doubt. So the rhetoric of the image is one of my works I put out there, and that happened in 1964. As the title suggests, like rhetoric, like the art of persuasion, and then of the imagery. So what images we use to persuade people, and then my primary focus on this would be in advertisement, because advertisement, there's everybody knows there's an explicit intent for that advertisement, and that is to sell the consumer their goods and influence them via the image.
Right. That's very, very interesting. Now, you were saying that you were going to talk today about a few concepts. Now, could you talk a little bit about your theory and the concepts?
Yeah, no problem. So, to first, you need to know that this kind of builds off semiotics, which was invented by Charles W. Morris in 1938, and you give him credit. But I did a lot, like that's the starting line, and I ran with it. The goal of semiotics was to interpret both the verbal and nonverbal signs. I'm more concerned with the verbal side of that, and that's going to take me into my actual key concept, which is the rhetoric of the image. So there are three components of imagery, and those are the linguistic message, the denoted image, and the connoted image. And these three things are the three components, and these are how the image persuades us. The linguistic message, you could think of, like the text that accompanies an image. Like you rarely see an advertisement where there's not a text. And this is to anchor the meaning, because you could, like, based on, everyone deals with different life experiences, and they might get different meanings from an image, and so the linguistic message acts as an anchor in this type of situation, and that's hugely beneficial. Relaying is another component of the linguistic message, and relaying, that's more like to deal with like cartoons and like comic strips where they kind of act in tandem. That's not what we could like touch on that, but I don't want to really dive too deep in that because I'm talking about advertisement here. So the second part of that would be the denoted image, and the denoted image is something you could think of as like the literal or explicit images in that. So like if I take a picture of a tomato, the tomato's a tomato. That's the literal interpretation, and there could be different segments to this, different signifiers, and so those are just going to be whatever. There's no specific order. If there's a tree in the ad, if there's a tomato, like for example, do you remember that the real famous Italian advertisement?
The Panzini ad?
The Panzini ad. That
I
one
do.
was crazy.
I
So
know that
like,
one.
so when you see the bag, the ripped bag, that's one aspect of that. Then the tomato. But these are all the denoted. These are the literal interpretations of what they're supposed to be. But then that takes us into the connoted or the implied meaning of the image. Like all those things in the Panzera ad, like denote Italianicity is like one of the things that they quote. Like
Kind of the way they position the colors and
Yeah, and once again, so the thing that makes the connoted, this is like my favorite part of my theory, because the connoted is going to change from person to person, and that's just based off their like personal knowledge on culture, or like their like what they know about the national like culture of anything. So, any other questions you got?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, how, you discussed it a little bit. So would you say, like, how can your theory be applied in real life?
Oh yeah, so once again, like this is why I love this theory so much about the rhetoric of the image and how that works. So obviously advertisements everywhere. We're in this huge consumer culture, and it's everywhere. So by knowing like the three components of imagery and how they are trying to influence us and persuade us into buying the advertisement, whatever they're going for, you can be more critical of it. Like, hey, like why are they putting this word there? Like what are they trying to make me see? What are they trying to maybe hide, or what are they trying to imply by a certain thing? There's tons of advertisements throughout history that have kind of used this, and like the herbal.
Some examples?
Yeah, so like the herbal essence advertisement, and like how she's like rubbing her hair, like, and she's making a lot of noise, like.
Trying to like sex cells.
Exactly, and once again, and the point of this, like, of my theory is to like analyze these things and what are they trying to make us think and buy, and what, like, how are they persuading us, and a lot of this has to do with like, because the advertisers they perpetuate culture, and they try to use all information to persuade.
It's really, really interesting. So if you were a student studying yourself, what would be an overall evaluation of the theory, and a response to critics as well?
Oh, wow, sweet. Turns out I'm not Roland Barthes, and my name's actually Robert Shelby. Right? No worries. So my overall evaluation of Roland Barthes, he's a cool dude. He's the top, like one of the top theorists of the 20th century. But he does have some critiques. So the rhetoric of the image, there are some issues. So like it's actually like very wordy and hard to like understand. Like I've been reading about this for weeks now, months, and it's still kind of a little dicey. I have a firm understanding of it though. But it's very wordy when you read it. When it's like only 10 pages, but it feels like 30 pages, and so that kind of limits the audience to like, hey, like what's like basically you almost have to be academic. And you need a lot of textuality to like understand. So you need to have an understanding of his semiotics to kind of refer back to this. So you have to like know a lot about his like surrounding theories and like his other accomplishments to understand what he's trying to say in this article.
That's really interesting.
And another like knock on is like not all advertisements are like everything's intention. Like this needs to be here, this needs to be there. Like you need to like sometimes things happen serendipitously. Like they catch a moment, and there was supposed to be no implied meaning. So not everything is meticulously thought out.
Yeah, I mean that's super deep. I definitely can see why you'd say that a lot of his stuff's pretty deep, and 30 pages or 2 pages feels like 30.
Yeah, and there's like some other things that like maybe we didn't cover. Like, so another thing about him, he did die in 1980, but like so in his theory, like he laid out, like he actually led to like a lot of the future. Like he's a huge stepping stone for like other theorists and philosophers. Like
yeah, no,
Stuart
he's a
Hall.
huge influential person for the theorists that I selected.
And
Stuart looked at him as one of his influencers.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and like he died before his time, and it's just kind of crazy to think about what he could have offered. Like,
how old was he when he died?
So he's born in 1915 and died in 1980. So if we do some simple math, 65. Yeah, maybe a couple days short, but it's just crazy like what he could have potentially meant. But hey, that's the way things go, and life's life. Yeah. So.
Oh well, I appreciate that interview. Those super interesting presentations.
Yeah. Hey, no problem. Hey, thank you for listening to this and give me some constructive feedback, and let me know if I missed anything. Thank you.
Good job, man.